Who watches The Watchmen? We do! Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Pierre, and that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Watchmen Season 1, Episode 5. It's called Little Fear of Lightning. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This episode focuses on Looking Glass, and what's interesting is last week you kind of teased that it was going to introduce a new character, and it didn't. So, I'm confused.
No, I was teasing that it would be focused on one character.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And you assumed it was going to be a new character, and I did not want to say because I didn't want to spoil anything.
Okay, I respect it. it. So we focus on Wade / Looking Glass and his backstory and what he's doing. We find out that he, as his day job, because most of them don't actually literally have a day job, although I suppose Angela does kind of pretend that she's opening a bakery, even though it's just kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
But we find out that he is in advertising. They have him for like the focus groups, and they'll get them to fill out the questionnaires, but he'll be watching, as if it's almost like a cop show where he's behind the glass and he's watching the reactions to give them the honest. We get this ridiculous come back to New York ad. It's not scary. Come back. You're not going to die. It's fine. Is it? No, they're all scared. They're not going back. Which,
yeah.
I think leads us nicely into the opening of the episode, which is an extended sequence in 1985, a special year for multiple reasons. And he arrives in New Jersey. What's that look for?
I didn't give a look.
I beg to differ. Looking Glass knows you're full of shit right now. So he arrives
Looking Glass is not as reliable as he thinks.
So Looking Glass, or I should say Wade, because he's not Looking Glass yet. Wade arrives in New Jersey. It's big fair going on, big party, and he's there with his Bible group to spread the good word of the Lord.
Yeah, I think he's a Jehovah's Witness, or I don't think he's a Mormon, because I think it is just Jehovah's Witness. But yeah, but they're the ones that go. Yeah. Mormons do too, I think, but they're more focused on missions. I think this is more of a situation where it's it's the end of the world, so sinners, now's the time.
Yeah, now's the time to repent. Witness. Repent!
Yeah.
Repent. So they get let off this little bus, and their pastor or whoever it is that's taking them here is like, right, it's 1 minute to midnight, guys. 1 minute to midnight in the doomsday clock. Go and save souls. And he's walking. This poor kid, he's clearly never been outside of Oklahoma. He's never been anywhere like the big city, and he's walking through the street and just mortified at everyone he passes. There's people kissing, there's people getting tattoos, there's people doing whatever.
Yeah, we're in peak 80s.
Yeah, we're in 80s grunge. I'll be honest, I was expecting some vats of toxic waste, and there wasn't any.
We didn't get any.
I know.
I mean, maybe because we're in New Jersey and not in New York, but no toxic waste.
I mean, maybe I'm just going with the stereotypes that, people in New York always try and get across. But I've always been under the impression that New Jersey is like the shithole version of New York. So
that is definitely where they put their toxic waste.
Yes. So New York used to have the toxic waste, and now New Jersey has all the toxic waste. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. That's where all the barrels went.
Apologies to any listeners in New Jersey. I am merely going off jokes.
New Jersey's always been the punching bag of the states.
Yeah, even well, I don't know, more or less than Florida, because I feel like Florida gets more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Florida man, Florida woman, Florida teen. Mm-hmm. Florida gets a lot. Well,
yeah, I guess every place in America has its embarrassing history. So, yeah.
Except Delaware. Delaware's just boring. That's Delaware's thing.
Delaware.
It's just
Come
Delaware.
To Delaware.
Why? Why would you go to Delaware?
You're watching Wayne's World, huh?
Not recently, but that's probably in my mind where it came from childhood. That's probably why that joke's in there. But yes, so he's here, he's trying to save people, he tries to talk. I don't know why he picks the punks that are standing in an alleyway. Pick someone safer looking. Seriously.
Because they're the ones that they're the sinners, really. They're the ones that need help.
Sure. So he goes up and they just make fun of him, and the one girl who's there kind of says, "Oh, be nice to him," and she sort of grabs his hand and runs off with him, takes him into the Hall of Mirrors in the middle of this fairground. and kind of seduction is maybe not quite the right word, but kind of, you know, tricks him into thinking he's about to have sex and strips him down, gets all flirty, and then it's all a ruse. Says, haha, suck it, Bible boy, and runs off. That's not exactly in a dialogue. I'm paraphrasing. But she runs off with his clothes.
Yeah.
And he's left there. I mean, he's got socks on, but other than that, he's butt-ass nude. He's in the hall of mirrors. He's clasping his dick. And I think my favourite part of this from a performance perspective from the younger guy here playing Wade, who's, you know, I mean, what is he here, like 17, 18? He's like... he's a teenager still, I think.
Yeah, he starts blaming himself. Like, you're an idiot, you're a sinner, you're the one who deserved it.
The word that was a sentence that really stuck out to me. Is like, you get exactly what you deserve. As he's angry at himself in the mirror.
I thought that was good too. That was a good touch. That was like, oh, he really is like very religious, and this is part of his, like, he's blaming himself. Yeah.
And then rumbles, and obviously when it said 1985. I was like thinking in my head, like, is this like, you know, like I was like how close are we to that event, right? And I'm sure they say a date, and maybe if you remember the date from the book, you'd have known it was coming. But I didn't realize it was necessarily going to be, this is the moment, you know, this is the moment where it happens.
I didn't realize either.
And you hear rumbling, and I'm like, holy shit, it's it. This is it. And I'm like, when it makes sense that he survives, because he's not actually in New York, he's in New Jersey. So he's obviously feeling a lot of the impact. New Jersey gets a lot of it, but not as much as New York. Because Manhattan's the epicenter. Manhattan's where it actually hits. And
what is that?
A giant mother effing squid. So,
which, by the way, looks awesome.
It looked great. And just the thing, so the glass starts shattering. I thought, this is a really great way of handling this, is in this room with him where we can't see it, right? And I thought, maybe it'll just end here. And then he goes outside and he sees like all these people lying dead, and it's like those pages in the comic where there's just people dead, you know, just pages and pages of death. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then the camera starts to pull back, and it goes over water, and I'm like, are we pulling back to New York? Are we going to see New York? Are we actually going to see like the squid? And we see
a hint of a tentacle.
Well, that's the thing. The first thing I saw though was Madison Square Garden. I'm like, oh, that's smart. That's a building that most people will recognize, right? As Madison Square Garden. And then it keeps pulling back, and then eventually you see the entire goddamn squid, this huge squid with the tentacles
all its glory
over the buildings. And all I could think in my head is, Zack Snyder, you effing idiot! You could have had this.
Too.
You could have had this.
I mean, I don't really blame him. Like, when the movie came out and they changed the ending from the giant squid to being about Manhattan instead, like Dr. Manhattan, I thought, yeah, that's probably a good idea. The giant psychic squid or whatever is probably a difficult pill to swallow for people who are just here for a comic book movie, and it might be a bit too weird and out there.
Grow up here.
But I gotta say, it looks great in the show.
They should have grown up here, because this looked great. And obviously a lot of this plot, we find out a lot of what drives Wade is this experience, and we find out how this has affected a lot of other people as well. Because even though we knew it happened, we had the small squids coming down, we were theorizing why the small squids were coming down. In fact, just last episode, we were debating, like, how much do they actually know about how fake this was, that this was, you know, Ozymandias, like, how much do they actually know? And this episode actually answers that straight up for us by the time we get to the end. I was almost laughing during the scene later when he was explaining it. I was like, oh, thank you for spelling this out, because we were just having this debate last week. How much do people know? So, great opening 5 minutes or whatever it was, phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. This might be my favorite episode so far. Although it's not perfect. I had a couple of things that's just like, why are you doing this? But otherwise, I mean, we always like this, right? We like the episodes that focus on one character.
Absolutely.
Other shows we watch, we do that too. Or like where you get a real deep dive into someone that you kind of like, and you get to explore why they're the way they are. You're like, okay, this is a performance-heavy episode and a character-heavy episode. I like, obviously we're gonna like it.
Yeah, I always enjoy those types of episodes when they're done well. And hell, even Lost, which Damien Lindelof did, like, at least it was the co-showrunner on, like, that entire show's format was that each episode focused usually on one character, because it was their flashbacks for that episode. So, this kind of being so good at that, but instead of doing flashbacks, it does some flashbacks, obviously, because this opening scene's a flashback, but instead of doing constant flashbacks, it's doing this thing where it just narratively weaves from character to character. Laurie, we focused on her when she arrived, and it made more sense, and we see a little bit of, like, Angela's plot going through that episode, but not a lot, and then we come back to her last episode, and in this episode, we focus on...
It doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense to just have an Angela-centered episode, since she's our main character throughout.
Sure.
She's like the one that interweaves through all of them.
But what I mean is, though, is that...
Although next episode is probably going to be mostly about her.
Yeah, but what I mean is, though, is that, like, the episodes that aren't focusing on other people do feel like her episodes because she is the main character. Like, because this episode, again, advanced her plot a bit, especially by the end, but it was all from Wade's perspective. It was following Wade and his story. And occasionally that was relevant to Angela's story, but not always. And that's kind of what we do here. So we get the focus group stuff. It sets up that, and I was actually wondering if this was even present day. Is this, like, before he became a cop? But then we see him go and, like, put the mask on and all the rest of it. Now, tell me, can you remember what they called the material that he's wearing? It was like a reflectium or something like that.
Reflect tape,
maybe. Yeah. It was something like that, and we actually find out that his alarm system that goes off when there's, like, a squid event comes from a company that exists purely to be interdimensional security, right? And they sell this material, and he orders more of that. And we also find out that when he's not wearing that mask, his cap that he wears also has that in the inside where he can hide it.
Yeah, he's got, like, the tinfoil hat for the crazies. And
what's beautiful about it is that, Laurie kind of accuses him of this, because she wants to speak to him when he comes into work this morning, and he's like, oh, so you were there on 11/2, you were there that night, and that must have, are you still waking up shitting yourself at night? Because I've heard that everyone who, like, felt the psychic blast, like, still has mental problems. And he's like, I sleep like a baby, and she's like, yeah, and you gave yourself an excuse to always be wearing that tinfoil shit on your face, like, the whole time.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of smart, because he was in a hall of mirrors when the event occurred, and he seemed relatively unharmed, where people outside of the hall of mirrors, like the woman that was in there with him, like, her brain exploded out of her head. So, like, there are people out there who are dead, but there are also people who are kind of, like, alive, but their eyes are bleeding, or, like, wandering around, confused. But, like, he seems the most okay out of all of them. So in his mind, it was the reflection in the mirrors or whatever that protected him.
Yeah, most likely.
So
also, it's interesting if he goes down that path, because one of the things that he might have taken away from this being religious is that, these are all sinners.
God saved him.
Yeah, and he's saved because he's a good boy.
Well, we don't know that he's not still religious. I mean, Laurie kind of asked him if he is.
Well, he might
doesn't really answer.
I mean, he may still be religious in a sort of more normal sense, but, like, what I'm saying is that after this event, he could have become extreme.
How can he be religious and aliens exist in his mind? So maybe he did give it up. Who knows?
Yeah, he can be religious and also believe in aliens. God made them too. There you go. That's I'm saying this as an atheist, right? I'm saying this as someone who does not believe in any type of God. I'm just saying that's how you do it.
Okay. Because God fills itself. Yes,
because it's a self-filling plot hole as religion. It just constantly fills its own plot holes. So, we hear this, and she brings up the pills because she's bugged the cactus, which is important for later. If I actually love the line where she's like, well, I'm FBI, we bug shit. Like, I actually really like that line.
It's like, don't be mad, it's what we do, you should know.
And it's like, oh, that's a personal matter between us, that's nothing to do with work. And that's kind of it. But I do like this idea that she sort of accused him of this, and it's when we see him go home later in the day, we see that his hat has the material inside it. We see when his alarm system breaks down because it won't turn off and there's nothing actually happening, he gets really angry. He goes on the phone and he's like, hey, your alarm system broke down, and I've done like 500 tests on this thing. And like, wait, how many tests have you done?
Yeah, he's super paranoid. I mean, he's a prepper, but he's beyond, like, he's beyond just, I have a fear of this might happening. He is always paranoid that something's going to happen.
Yeah, and
he can't even be without the alarm system because it's broken for a day.
Yeah, because they say, oh, we'll get a replacement to you by like Thursday, or whatever. Oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough.
That's too late. Like, what
Yeah.
if the squid attacks? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, we can overnight it to you, but it'll cost like the price of the actual item. And he's like, that's fine. Tomorrow, I'll take it tomorrow. So we see how desperate he is, and he eventually, we meet his ex, who he went to get the pills examined from.
From this super weird company that clones pets, and only twins work there, or are they clones?
It made me think of the Sixth Day, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, the where it's about cloning.
I have not watched it. I haven't watched it for a reason. It looked terrible.
It's not good, but it is science fiction, which means on our science fiction movie podcast, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, Tara will be watching it eventually. We could have like an Arnold month. I just thought of that. Anyway,
We have an Arnold vote.
Oh, we have an Arnold vote. Yeah, you're right. You're right. 6 Days not winning. Like, 6 Days up there against Total Recall and like like Predator.
I don't know. Our Patreons, they pick weird ones. So.
Sometimes they do. So they go check out
They
a review of
Wing Commander.
Yeah, Wing Commander's the one that we always bring up as being
Anything's
the
on the table.
So he goes to this clone place, and the whole point is that you never be without your pet. Your love pet. You can clone them. And he comes back into the back, and his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, whoever, is like, she's like, hey, it's Naked Eye, does this dog look like that dog? And he's like, it's a little bit smaller. He's like, damn, do you want it? No. And then she just opens this oven like door and just puts the dog in.
Oh, and my God. You have to have zero soul to work at this place.
I knew that was going to hurt you, Tara. I'm not going to lie. As soon as she opened that door,
I'm not alone.
Oh yeah, you're not alone in that for sure. But like,
oh yeah, I had to rewatch the second episode of The Mandalorian to make up for it.
That was just a watchable episode. I'll give you it.
For one reason alone.
I don't know, a bit of a side quest of an episode. You can check out my review with Connor of The Mandalorian episode 2.
No, it's just 40 minutes of oh. Is that all your review is? That's what mine was.
Bit more critical. That's all I'm saying. So we find out that these pills are called nostalgia. And they're actually a thing. They're not just something that's new to the show's world. It's not something that no one's ever heard of. Like, he understands what this is when she says that. They're an outlawed drug that literally
Nostalgia was the name of the perfume that Veidt had in the Watchmen comic. Because I just reread/watched them on the
motion comic. Yes, it's fine.
Before the show started. And so it stuck with me like, oh, that's interesting.
That's an interesting tidbit.
I mean, it makes sense for what the drug is that it would be called that, but it's also already a thing in the Watchmen universe.
I'm glad you remembered that detail because I didn't, and it's a good little tidbit that that's the same name. But it was outlawed.
Perhaps implying that Veidt is somehow involved with the drug.
With the drug, sure. I don't know if he's necessarily involved in the medication. It's probably the idea that whatever he had in the perfume or the cologne or whatever was then used by others.
Prototype.
Yeah, and then other people made pills out of it. Yeah, but it has literal memories in it, and they're like, oh, whose memories? And it's like, oh, so it's not even just like random. It's like specific a person's memories, and that's interesting because that must mean they're custom made for each person. The idea that okay, I need some memories, so load them up, and
right. And we find that if you take somebody else's nostalgia, then it could lead to psychosis and like a whole list of side effects that are bad.
We hear that at the end of the episode when Angela downs the bottle.
Yeah.
So his whole thing though is he's got a meeting that he goes to. He's got like a support group, sit in a circle, traditional type of thing for people who have been affected in some way by the psychic squid and have either felt the effects of the psychic attack, or one of the guys says he was born afterwards but he sort of inherited some of the problems from his mother, that kind of stuff. And there's this woman here who keeps kind of eyeing up Wade.
Right. Well, that thing that guy brings up, isn't that something we talked about? I know we talked about it when we talked about the film Altered States, about memories that get passed on biologically. Like, it's a real thing that happens, and he just like flat out brings it up. So I think that's like a concept that they're really
Okay.
working on for the show.
So you could say that, when we were guessing last episode that maybe the new character's daughter was a clone. Maybe she's actually just taking pills of her mother's memories or something like that. It could be
Yeah,
like
but
that.
biological memories are something that does get passed on. Like he's saying that he has a connection to the squid, even though he's born after it because his mother
Sure, no, but I'm
was so affected by it.
But I'm saying it more specifically than that she's probably taking pills. If she's not a clone, she's probably taking pills because they were so extreme and vivid and whatever. But
I think the show is bringing up that concept, that scientific concept, for a reason. And this is like our introduction to it because it's going to come up later. Maybe that's how the drug is made. You
may very well be right on that because you're right. They made a point of him bringing that up. But I'm bringing back that daughter thing from last episode though because I think it's important to go back and re-examine that with that in mind because we were thinking she's a clone maybe, but it could be that she's either having memories passed down to her, but probably enhanced by these pills. It would be my guess given how vivid they were. But and it would actually add up because if Will's whole thing was to get Angela to take those pills, if that was his plan, so when he says to I forgot her name, sorry, from last episode, I'll remember it when she's back. But when he was said to her that hey, so and he accused her of doing the same thing with her daughter.
Oh, Lady True.
Yeah, Lady True. There you go. Lady True's her name. When he accused her of doing the same thing with her daughter, that even adds up more. If he's expecting Angela to take the pills that he's like inconveniently left behind for her. If that was his plan. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, those were not left by accident.
yeah So he's at a support group and this woman's there who kind of keeps looking at him, eyeing him up, and it's like, where's this going? They get outside and he tries to talk to her, tries to tell her about the next meeting that's happening. It's next Tuesday. And she's like, I'm not going to that. And it's like, we're all just batshit. And he's like, I don't believe anything you say anyway. You're not. Because he gives a speech when he's in the circle about, life's like a tunnel, but I'll help you find the light at the end of it. And she's like, no, you've not found that light. You're still just in the tunnel like everyone else. And we know that's true. We've seen how he's living. We've seen, his hats and his bunker and everything else. This man is a mess. And she basically asks him to go to a bar. Says, follow me. They end up at a bar. And they've got a bet to see if he's equally as crazy as she is, but he proves that he can tell if someone's lying because she sort of lies about her profession a couple of times until she eventually lands on radiology. But the big thing from this conversation for me, which I think we have to talk about, is that in this version of the world, Steven Spielberg did not make Schindler's List.
No, he does not.
He made Pale...
Yeah, this is a really fun detail.
Yeah, Pale White, or is it Pale White Horse?
The Pale Horse, I think.
No, the word white was definitely there, I think. I think it was the Pale White. Pale White Horse.
Oh,
the point
it was Pale Horse.
The point is he made a movie about the squid attack, and the reason why it's called that is because the band that were playing in Madison Square Garden the night that it happened, when the moment it happened, was this band, the Pale Horse or whatever. And
the whole movie's in black and white.
Except this one girl who's wearing red, and she's looking for her mother. That really made me laugh. It really made me laugh.
She was bringing up, at first she was saying, it's Pale Horse, it's a movie, won a ton of Oscars, and I was like, I wonder what movie that is. And then she said Spielberg. I'm like, oh, that's not a movie I'm supposed to know.
No, but then she describes the red coat and it's in black and white. You're like, this happened instead. Although, notably...
He was so traumatized by the events that he made a film about this instead of Schindler's List.
Notably, the year... This might be intentional and did this for a reason, but the year's actually wrong.
The same year, right?
No. Schindler's List came out in 1993. She said 1992. I'm sure she did.
Okay.
It may be meaningless. It may just be, no, he made it quicker because he was still distraught. I don't know.
Are you sure it was? Yeah, it was 93 because it was the same year as Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that was a big thing. He had to let someone else finish post-production on Jurassic Park because he was off working on Schindler's List. Like, he had a really busy year that year.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs and Holocaust. I mean, that's a...
Two fantastic films.
Yeah. Yes. I mean,
have you seen it?
I have seen it. Yeah, I've seen Schindler's List. It's not one that I necessarily want to see again, I have to admit.
I've seen it a few times. Because every time someone says I've never seen it, I'd be like, we have to watch it.
Mm.
You gotta knock this off your list.
Actually, one of the weird things about that movie is because I grew up in a world after it, and so did you. I mean, obviously we were both born when the movie came out, but like, what I mean is, most of our life was after Schindler's List, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that I don't remember like the Holocaust and the idea of what happened in the 40s with Nazi Germany and what they did to a lot of people, but specifically the Jewish population. Like sometimes I'll hear older people talk about it as if it wasn't as well known, as if it wasn't something everyone actually
it
knew.
wasn't.
Yeah, that's
I
weird
think we've
to
had
me.
this conversation before. I think I think some, obviously because there were survivors, some people knew about it, but it wasn't this really well-known thing until like the 70s when there was a miniseries that came out about it.
Mm.
And I think that also a lot of young Germans didn't know about the Holocaust until that miniseries came out. Like it was really eye-opening for a lot of people.
Yeah, you're right. We have talked about this before, not on a show. I don't think. I think this was just something we talked about randomly, but
Maybe it might have been for the Ace.
it may have been just a random conversation, but it was a really funny conversation in this show. It was really funny to hear this and be like, oh, okay, right. So he never made Schindler's List. He made this instead. And they kind of bond a little bit. There's some jokes and there's some, she mentions her two ex-husbands and she met, he, whatever, and they end up kissing outside. They both get a little bit drunk. They both need to call for a friend to pick them up. However, after she's kissed him, and also, by the way, I want to actually just personal thing here. When she's smoking outside and they're talking about how it was outlawed and stuff, he says it smells really nice. No, it doesn't. It never does. It's disgusting. It stinks.
To a non-smoker? No.
Absolutely stinks. Right? Anyway.
Maybe he used to smoke. You never know.
Maybe he did, but no, absolutely stinks. I'm not buying it. Anyway, so, but as her friend is driving her away in a pickup truck, a cabbage falls out the back of it. And it's like, wait a minute. And it's always funny, is the show's not really focused on that attack that much. Ever since Judd got killed, the focus has kind of shifted in terms of what crime we've been really paying attention to. I was, we've never actually solved that crime. They never actually literally caught like who did that. And
that's right. That was in the opening episode.
Yeah, it was like the first scene in present day. We had the opening and the massacre, but that was the first like modern day scene. And he calls it in and he races after the truck. He follows them to this abandoned department store. In fact, earlier on in the episode, Laurie was telling the police force to look for all the churches in the radius because they filmed this video back from episode 1 in a church of some kind. And we find out actually it's just a set that they've built inside this department store, which is actually really smart, I mean, all things considered. But he gets in, he sneaks in, he finds a gun in the truck that's outside. He sees both this woman, Renee, and the guy put on Rorschach masks before they go into the building, and he goes inside, he sneaks in, and all of a sudden, like as he's walking around, a basketball just plops out of the ceiling. There's like a little portal opens and it goes bloop, boom, 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 and then a Rorschach walks in and is like, oh hey, it came out of the kitchen area, whatever it was. The church, yeah, it came out of the church. And it's like, what are they doing? What's going on? There's portals happening. Portals. And he keeps following, and they've got literally this portal gate, and they're throwing basketballs in and seeing where they come out. It's like they're marking down, okay, how far are they traveling? How random is it? Where are they going? They're testing this thing, and this really freaks him out, and it becomes clear
because this is the reason why he thinks this is the reason why we got the squid back in 1985 was because the company was messing around with interdimensional portals.
Yeah, so this was the kayfabe reason. This was the cover story given to the public. Well, not even just the public. This is the cover story that Ozymandias had for everyone. That this is why it happened. And so he thinks this is dangerous as shit, and that they can't do this, and this is what you're doing. So not only are these the illegal, the racist terror group that have been murdering people, now he thinks they're bringing back his biggest fear, that the thing that killed all those people and changed his life might actually come back because of these people. So he whips out the gun and he's like, freeze, police, do this. And the woman's like, oh, I know who you are, Wade. I know you're Looking Glass. Like, put the gun down. Let me explain what this is and why you're here. Why we rigged. I mean, this line actually made me laugh a little bit. We rigged the cabbage to fall out the back of the truck.
Yeah. But it makes sense, like, because it was a little bit convenient.
Oh, well, it absolutely was convenient. You're right. It absolutely was. And the Rorschach who sits with him in another room. And I didn't recognize his voice because I've not heard his voice enough to really notice it. But it's the Senator Kane, who I've seen a couple of times, and he's like, "You're not even gonna disguise your voice. Like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm about to show you something that I saw after I, achieved, office or whatever, and I'm going to show it to you. I eventually pirated out my own copy so I can show it to you. And all I'm going to ask of you is that you basically help the investigation that thinks, because Laurie thinks that it's either Angela or someone she knows killed Judd. We would like that to go through, and it sounds like just to distract her for a few days. It's not so much that they want her to go to prison forever for it. She just want to be off the table, because otherwise we're going to have to go to her home and kill her, and we don't want to do that. So how about you?
Yeah, he says that in his like super friendly way. Otherwise, we're going to have to kill her own family. So.
Yeah, and he says that he took, he after the White Knight, because he wasn't involved with this group before that. He says that him and Judd both basically took control of different cells of the 7th Cavalry after the White Knight to keep them in check, to stop them from doing crazy stuff like that.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing.
We also know that he wants Angela out of the way because they're clearly planning something big in the next couple of days.
They're planning something, presumably involving portals.
And probably dead people.
So we'll see how that goes. And this is the weird thing, is that I don't necessarily think right now there's anything in my head to connect this plan to whatever Lady True and Will are doing with their, tower.
No idea. There's basically 3 big plans that we're watching, right? There's Lady True with Will, and then there's whatever the 7th Cavalry is doing, and then there's Veidt, who might be connected to Lady True.
We'll get to that later. I've got some thoughts on Veidt.
His stories are. I always look forward to his part of the episode.
And speaking of,
it's just so bizarre.
We're about to get young Veidt in a minute. Younger, I should say. Cover up Jeremy Irons' face with some VHS quality video and hope no one notices his age.
They don't really do try to de-age him at all. Because his voice is still old sounding.
They can't really do
it.
it.
I don't care. Whatever. You deal with it because it's still pretty good.
Outside of getting an impersonator to do the voice for the young version, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And I really like Jeremy Irons, so
yeah. I mean, if they're going to tell me he just had a gravelly voice when he was 40 and now he's 70, I'll take it. That's fine.
Okay.
I'll take it. So he puts on this tape. And it's this tape of Veidt telling Robert Redford, which he pre-recorded, by the way, he recorded this the day before the event in 1985, the day before the squid. He recorded this video congratulating Robert Redford on becoming president, which wouldn't happen until 7 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all part of his master plan.
How did I predict this? I didn't. I planned it.
Yes.
Pretty great.
And he stands there and says, so tomorrow, 24 hours from now, although 7 years in your past, something will have to unite everyone to stop this nuclear, war from happening. And there's going to be a giant interdimensional squid. But it won't be coming from another planet or another dimension. It'll be coming from me. And what's beautiful about this moment is what, as fun as it is to watch him give this speech, it's Wade's reactions and his
oh yeah. This is why you get a great actor, right?
Yeah.
He's so good in this scene.
Him sitting up and paying attention and realizing that everything he's been scared of his entire life is just a lie. And because it kind of answers here, I don't know if it's necessarily in this scene or before, or on the tape, their Veidt says it, but somewhere along the way, someone does clearly imply that all these little squids that have been falling since are actually also
Veidt
they're also part of the plan to keep the fear there. It's no, it could happen again. So, that answers that. It answers why it's still happening, where they're coming from.
Yeah, but nobody dies from it, right? It's just well, maybe some people do because they're slippery, but for the most part, they're just a reminder. Someone dropping banana peels.
Somewhere in a village somewhere, some old granny has met her demise by slipping on a little squid.
Yeah.
off the side of a bridge. Wilhelm scream. Wilhelm scream queued up on the tape deck. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I agree. I really like the scene though for his reaction. And I think it's the senator who says to him like is anything true? And then he repeats it later on, like, is anything true? And it's really I think that's why this might be my favorite episode. It probably is because of his realization. And I'll admit I watched it twice because I really liked it. But
what do you mean?
like even the opening scene where he's
hold on a second. I'll admit I watched it twice. You don't have to feel bad about that. No one's going to mock you for watching it twice.
I did. I watched it twice. But the opening scene where he's like doing the focus group stuff. And like sure, maybe the Smiley O's, like he knows that the kids don't like it because it's not made of sugar, but the one with the New York, like all of a sudden he doesn't seem so good at predicting whether or not people are telling the truth when his own like personal bias is in the way, including like the squid or pretty women who trick him into doing things.
Which is a bit of a running theme, actually. I wanted to point out there's a line when he sees his ex where she says, I spent 7 years trying to convince you that I wasn't going to steal your clothes and run off and leave you alone. Clearly, it's, that's also something that's affected him his entire life, is that experience. And he almost cracks a joke where he's like, 7 years of bad luck. Because there was broken mirrors around him. like that literally happened. So he had a very rough 7-year relationship with someone.
Yeah, but he does the same thing in this episode, right? Like he meets a pretty girl. She says, "Follow me," and he just goes. She starts talking about sex.
Hey! This is all accurate. Like almost all of us are going to fall for this. All right? don't even. Don't pretend that this is
this power.
Don't pretend that this is unrealistic. Okay?
Oh, not at all. Like this is totally realistic, especially a guy who's like looking at his bunk bed being empty, like clearly a bunker made for two.
Oh, but there was a third one. There was one up top, almost implying that he was planning on having a kid at some point.
Oh, maybe. I was thinking that he was sleeping on like a couch looking at the bunks, but maybe that was a third bed.
Yeah, I thought it was 3 beds, but you could be right.
Well, in any case, like, yeah, he's a lonely guy. Pretty girl starts talking to him. She's kind of cool and interested in him, and she starts talking about screwing and just casually. I'm like, oh, I'm so drunk, and yeah, of course it's gonna work. But like he just talked about this moment in his life with his ex, and he falls right back into it. It's the one weakness he has.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, this one's more subtle.
I think.
Like, I'd like to think that if she tried to strip him immediately, he would probably go, wait a minute, this happened before. This is too close. I'm not falling for this.
No, but he's just as vulnerable by the end, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It traps him into this, and they want him because they want him to take Angela out of the picture because she trusts him. And I actually love how he does it as well, because when he gets back into work the next day, and he gets he's like, she's like, hey, did you get the pills? And she comes over to talk to him, and he's like, yeah, but hey, like, you want my help? Let me in this. What's going on? And he intentionally does this at his desk, knowing the cactus is bugged. And I love that the camera kind of focuses on it just a little bit, just to remind us the cactus is there, and he's not. Because I thought what he was going to do as soon as he left their office earlier on.
He even kind of leans in, like, come on, tell me, like, I want to help.
Because
so she has to lean in to whisper back, like right over the cactus.
When he left Laurie's office earlier on, I thought it was the first thing he was going to do was go and like take it out of like annoyance, like how dare she bug me, but he doesn't, and it's perfect because
I'm sure he thinks like whatever. It's not like I say anything that's top secret. Yeah. I mean, with the exception of the pills, I guess.
Yeah, the principle of the matter. But yeah. Oh, by the way, Panda was back in this episode. I loved Panda sitting around.
Yeah, I hope we get a Panda episode.
I don't think we're getting
his backstory.
I don't think we're getting a Panda episode, but I did enjoy more Panda. And
I love that his panda mask is so dirty. It just looks like such a slob.
And then Red scares using the lettuce that was part of the evidence in the cop killing for his sandwich because it was going bad.
Well, that was clearly there to set up, hey, remember The lettuce?
Yeah. No, it's smart storytelling. It's there to remind us about the lettuce. I will say this, though. This felt unbelievable to me. Lettuce does not last this long exposed. I refuse to believe lettuce from that first episode is still sitting there perfectly edible. Not in a fridge, even.
I think it might be okay. Like, it'll be a little wilted, but it won't be as crunchy.
Sure. I don't know.
Look, I'm the lettuce expert, okay?
All right, fine. All I know is when I open a bag
One
of
of
lettuce...
us eats salads.
I eat lettuce. I've been eating some salad with my dinner. I've been doing better. Don't you even start, okay? Don't you even start. I've been making a concentrated effort. I will not have this. Today I am 3 weeks without milk.
I apologize.
I am 3 weeks without milk today, all right?
Whoa. It's a big day.
My calcium's probably in the shit, but that's okay.
Right, eat lettuce. You can get calcium from there.
I went 6 months without cheese and now 3 weeks without milk. I am doing absolutely wonderful.
Everything's going exactly as planned.
So, anyway, I just wanted to mention Panda, because Panda's great. But yeah, so and he says sorry. He says, "I'm sorry, Angela," and she's like, "Well, sorry for what?" Right before Laurie like busts out with a gun and is like hands up, like arrest her. But of course, what she does as she gets the pills back, before she's unable to use her hands and have free will, she downs the bottle of pills, and Laurie's like, "What are you doing? You're crazy!" Like, all sorts of side effects. So as much as we're not going to mention really what we see in the next time on at the end, it does kind of confirm that what's going to happen because she downed these pills is what the focus of the episode is. And I will say it looks like it's going to be a very inventive flashback episode, if nothing else. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward
Looks
to
like
that.
we're getting the Spielberg's treatment of black and white with the flash of color. Oh, you know what else I wanted to mention that
Yes.
I really noticed? I think the last episode and then this episode remind me of it is the opening title of the Watchmen is always done differently in a really clever way.
Yeah.
I just really like that detail.
It's a nice touch. Even just that, even just the
And the title of the episode too.
title of the episode always ends up on the ground or in a building or something. It's always somewhere. I'm just laughing because I just noticed I have a message from Connor. It's not spelled correctly because he's drunk right now. He's very drunk, but he's drunk watching Arrow at the moment, and he texts me in all caps what's supposed to be bloodlust, because that was a word we used to always make fun of them using a few seasons ago. The spelling of it though is as follows: B, LKKDLUST. The lust is okay at the end, but blood was blicked. Anyway,
We need to do an intervention episode with Connor.
Connor's liver is already fecked. It's fine.
Mild fuzz intervention.
And
Connor, you need to drink all the time.
And
this is the only time you're likable.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I like that twist, actually. I was too busy thinking of the joke I was about to crack that I didn't even register what you were saying until a second later. And before YouTube tries to do anything, I said fact, not the actual F word. Fact. I said the Irish version with the E. Anyway, we have to talk about well, actually, just to wrap up Wade's stuff, because Wade goes home that night, and his replacement alarm system has arrived, and he throws it in the trash, and then changes his mind and takes it back out of the trash.
You don't get over something that you've, structured your whole life around, I guess.
No, I get it.
In an hour. That's what I read from it. Unless he's planning to, I don't know, jerry-rig it into something else, a different kind of alarm system.
But right after he goes inside, a van pulls up, and 4 Rorschach-looking dudes with shotguns come walking out and are walking towards his house, clicking their guns, and that's when we go to the credits. So they got
I hope he doesn't die.
They got what they wanted out of him. I hope he doesn't too. I don't think he will. I think there's more to do with him, given his past and what he cares about. I think he's a conduit. I think because we have learned so much about the mythology of the world through him in this episode, and how the world has reacted to the squid, and how there's entire groups of people who spend money on this shit to try and protect themselves that they don't need.
Yeah.
New
really York needs people again.
New York needs people again. So we get this cheesy ad. We never really talked about it when we mentioned it before, but so I'll mention now. You've got just a cop being like, Oh, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have came back here because if it gets any safer, I'll be out of a job.
I can't remember if after 9/11 there were ads like this, like come back to New York, it's safe now.
I
But,
don't.
obviously that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, I
Like
don't.
there's no 9/11
Yeah,
in this universe, but
maybe there was. I don't think so. Though. I feel like, and I could be wrong. I don't see what
it
ads
could have
play.
maybe like tourism ads rather than like come back because I mean that event was pretty unifying.
Oh, sure, yeah, I can see tourism ads being that. That said, I don't remember any, but I think, and again, I don't see what ads playing in US TV, but I feel like more than likely the equivalent would be sort of more of a pride thing about how strong we are, we've survived this, and we'll keep surviving kind of thing. I feel like that was the general message post 9/11.
Yeah, you're right. There was like a lot of Budweiser commercials that were just like America, Patriot.
Yeah.
We stand united.
It was kind of like how when the referendum was happening in Scotland, all of a sudden every media store had like tons of Braveheart at the front of the window. They're like, "Hey, come buy Braveheart." You think I'm
Learn
joking?
about your history.
That actually happened. It was just lots of Braveheart on sale.
You guys need more movies.
Braveheart's a pretty good one, to be fair, though, at least.
Yeah, you've got that one. Oh, what's the other one I really like? I think with Liam Neeson in it.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah, Rob Roy.
Oh, I've not seen that. I've not seen that.
Scottish?
It might be. I've not seen it.
I think I like that one. It's been a long time though.
Okay. What can I say? We can't exactly put out train spotting as here. We're proud to be Scottish. No, the heroin
Scotland,
junkies.
get addicted to heroin.
Oh dear. Hey, I'm happy to put Under the Skin as a Scottish movie. Come to Scotland and Scarlett Johansson might seduce you into death.
You could have been in that movie.
I could have been in that movie.
They just got random dudes.
They were prowling the streets looking for unsuspecting idiots. Anyway, I think that leads us on.
Ooh, pretty girl. Okay, I'll get into your rape van.
Hey, they would.
Your murder van.
Hey, well, no, I mean, you joke about that, but that actually plays upon what that movie was doing about gender stereotypes and how men assume they're safe because they're the men, and how unsuspecting it is. That's part of what the movie's doing.
We'll have a thorough discussion when we talk about it on the 8th.
Which we will do someday, you're right. And I can tell you my story about how I didn't know that was set in Scotland when I went to see it, and how I had this weird moment like 10 minutes into it where I started to recognise places and was like, wait a minute.
This doesn't happen.
Something weird's going on here. What's going on?
Usually it's like I recognize places. I'm like, oh, that's Canada, but it'll say like Los Angeles on the
sure,
side.
yeah. They do that all the time.
No, it's not.
Like every
That's
TV
Vancouver.
show is like shot in Vancouver now. It is insane.
Yeah.
To the point where an episode of The Flash, like 2 seasons ago, didn't even hide a giant Canadian flag in the background. I'm like, this is
welcome to Chicago. I'm like, that's my grandma's house.
that's supposed to be Central City. There's a giant maple leaf, and like, just pretend it's the embassy. It's the Canadian embassy. Anyway, so the one final thing we have to really talk about is Vite, and I want to pat myself in the back a little bit because one of the things I said a week or two ago was that I reminded you about the bubbles that Manhattan made on Mars, like the bubbles of like the atmosphere and how he'd put buildings in them. And I theorized that maybe this place was like that. It was a bubble of atmosphere that Manhattan had created on either the moon. I think I said the moon at the time, or Mars, whatever.
Well, yeah, because last week we had that transition from Vite to like a moon shot. So like, oh, they're implying he's on the moon, not on Mars.
Yeah.
But he is on the moon, just not Earth's moon.
Just not Earth's moon, yes. Because
I'm going to say it's Europa. Because I think you can see Io in the background, which is a more reddish colored moon. So I think he's on Europa.
I know what Io is to an extent, not as much as you do, but I've heard of it because of The Expanse, because The Expanse uses real moons and asteroids.
Because of 2010, the sequel to 2001, Space Odyssey.
The hit motion picture.
Yes.
So I'm patting myself on the back a little bit because I think I at least nailed part of it with the bubble thing. With we're talking about Manhattan's bubbles of life on Mars. So
yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of knew that it had to be Manhattan something though, because even the most advanced technology that we've seen in the show would be from like Lady True I mean, there are like cloning facilities, which we do see clones,
I mean, I would
but
have like
I don't think they would be this advanced.
I could have accepted like he's on Earth, but he's in like a dome that True's built or something like that. Obviously, that's not what we're doing now,
Yeah.
but I could have accepted that as a possibility. But yeah, so Joy's been catapulting the clones out of the bubble, and it's nice because it transitions from like his videotape stuff to this. So it's like, oh, okay, well, now we go to like present day Vite, or well, near enough present day. I still
What
think,
we assume.
yeah, I still think this might be set before the rest of the show.
It's true. We still don't know what that meteor was
Yeah.
in last week's episode.
Yes.
I'm thinking it might be Vite.
It may be Vite landing. Yeah. So we see him. He's in the I'll call it a spacesuit, but it's more of a deep sea diving suit that he's like retrofitted to work as a spacesuit. And
I don't know. It looks very 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to me.
it does. And he goes on the
Which I
catapult.
think is a theme in this episode because they bring up the name Nemo, which is the name of either the captain or the ship in that book.
Captain, I think. Yeah.
And there's
Captain
a
Nemo.
giant squid, which is like that.
Sure.
I think the title comes from there too. But the title makes me think of something else. It also makes me think of preppers because like people who are afraid of like storms and stuff can have like afraid of the flood or the big storm that might come. Also preppers. I don't know. Like doomsday stuff.
I think you're doing good stuff here. I've never read this book or know much about it, so this is good stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Or seen the
I mean,
movie.
I read it when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but I've never seen the movie, oddly enough. It's on the Disney Plus app, though. I noticed it.
Oh, is it sci-fi? Sounds like sci-fi, kinda. Or is it just underwater?
I mean, Jules Verne was kind of sci-fi. I guess if Journey to the Center of the Earth is science fiction, then
Well, that definitely. Yeah, but in Journey to the Center of the Earth, they find creatures that are living like near the crust, like giant creatures and stuff. Well, that's definitely sci-fi.
yeah, the whole like Hollow Earth thing.
Yeah. Like there's like it's not a scientifically accurate representation of the core
I
of the
don't know
Earth.
if 20,000 Leagues is science fiction.
That's fine, whatever. Anyway, so Vite's on the catapult himself, and he's got a bunch of the clones doing his where he's like, "All right, Miss Crookshanks," and he's like, I love when he says that, Crookshanks.
I know.
I love it. And he fires himself out of the ball. He's tethered though. He's got a rope. He's tethered to, his origin point, and sure enough, I sort of popped a little bit because it kind of proved me right. Is when as soon as he goes out the bubble, it turns to space, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. And he just lands so gently because of gravity.
Yeah, he's on
so much later.
He's on a different planet or whatever. He's bubbling. So it's all right. And I loved all the dead like clones that he's like fired out. And he builds a sign saying, "Save me" or whatever, out of the dead bodies.
There's a third word, but we don't see it.
Yes, I'm going to assume a name. Save me, someone.
I mean, it sort of looked like it could have been a D, but like, Dad? It'd have to be something short.
But does it have to be something short?
I would imagine.
I mean, he's got a lot of dead bodies out there. he can make.
Yeah, but it took a lot to just make the letter V.
True. So yeah, we see Jupiter, obviously, which because that's what made me go, "Oh, this isn't Mars. You would see Jupiter this close from Mars. This is like really in your face."
Yeah.
So
I think he's on Europa.
I'm glad you've got an educated guess as to exactly which moon it is, but
I mean, there are quite a few moons. I think I want to say like high teens.
Sure.
Like 17 moons or something. But the big ones, the big four, are the Galilean moons. And
just Titan one, yeah.
I think that might be Saturn.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
There's
Titan's a
Titan
Saturn moon.
and there's Triton, and I think one of them is Saturn, one of them Neptune.
Titan, Triton, Brighton, Crichton.
Probably
Saturn.
Triton is Neptune because that would make sense.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for your astronomy knowledge.
It's using the old noodle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this was just delightful. Of course, he gets yanked back in, and we see the warden or whatever name he's going by is dragged him in, and is like, "I warned you in the letter, but you think he might kill him because he sort of like sticks a machete, but he's just popping the mask off. And it's sort of like, oh dear, what's going to happen to Veidt now? Well, he says he's getting locked up, but like, what does that specifically mean? Like, so next time when we see him, is he going to be like in a jail cell on this
Was
island?
this guy a new face? Could you tell?
Do you know? I was actually trying to look at him to see if it was the same face as the other dudes, as if it was just like one of those
Yeah.
clones that had been made.
Mr. Phillips or
Yeah.
whatever.
But I couldn't tell. I don't think it was.
You can't tell. He's got a little bit of a mustache.
Yeah,
and
he's got the mask.
got a mask, like an eye mask on, like a Zorro mask. So
Yeah.
it's enough to hide his identity, like to where, I mean, he looks like he could be if he took it off, but there's no real distinctive features for me to say.
He's generic white dude enough that he could be him, but like nothing to actually say for sure it is him. Yeah. Because I was thinking that too. Like maybe this is just another copy of him. That's, you know, if Manhattan's put him here, and he must have. It must be Manhattan. He's on.
It has to be, right?
He's on one of Jupiter's moons. God damn it.
There is a satellite that's out there, though.
There is. That seems to be maybe there to monitor him.
And well, or that they don't know he's there.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
oh
he
yeah, no,
wrote
you're
that
right.
message for that satellite.
You're right.
To
Yeah,
see.
no, you're right. He wrote the message obviously for something, and presumably that satellite's the only thing that's going to see it. So yeah, you're right.
I still have so many questions. The show, it seems like it's answering them, but it keeps giving me 4 more questions to think.
It's a Damon Lindelof show. That's how they work. That's how this works. So, I'm excited. They've not renewed it yet, but it's been doing really well for them. So I think it's all but guaranteed that we're getting season 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited for, because I'm loving how this is building. You know, this is the middle episode, because there's 9 episodes, so we got 4 left in the season, and I think it's introduced a lot of great world building, and I'm super into all that stuff, and I'm excited to see. I feel like this was kind of the final. This feels like the last episode that's introducing a lot of new stuff to me, in the sense that I feel like, because next episode is going more into the past, I feel like we're finally going to start diving into the stuff we've been teasing, as opposed to just introducing new elements that were. But they've all been fascinating, they've all been good. And you may be right.
Yeah.
This might be the best episode, although I think Laurie's episode I think is up there for me as well, so I'm not going to pick.
Yeah, that was good. Plus, we had a character that we know from the comics, which was nice to see back.
Yeah, even just this episode, we're getting more Watchmen as we go. I mean, this episode had a younger Veidt who's, from Watchmen, and this is before the other characters come to see him.
And the Squid, I would consider the Squid to be
And the Squid, yeah,
essential Watchmen character.
Well, exactly. What I'm saying is that we're seeing more and more events directly from the story. Like, we're seeing parts of it in roundabout ways, but we're seeing characters from that time. We're seeing the aftermath of the event. We're seeing, I wouldn't be shocked if we eventually get like more of the actual story told in flashbacks at some point.
Well, yeah, and we know that that Dan, the owl guy, is here somewhere in this world. He's
Night Owl. Night Owl. Yes.
I love how I remember nostalgia, but not the name of one of the main characters.
Oh dear. But no, really. I do. I'm enjoying the world building, and the more it connects back into Watchmen, I'm like, I love just how destroyed Wade is when he realizes how fake it was, and that it wasn't. I mean, obviously, it was a real tragedy because 3 million people that die, but like, it's not this thing he needs to be scared of in the same way that he was before. It's something that's completely different.
I think it's pretty incredible how well that scene fits in with this show too.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Watchmen, it seems like its own little contained story that's perfect for the time that it came out in. But this show it's a pretty big gamble to do something in a future Watchmen universe. That's not going to upset fans, but I think they're doing a really good job.
I mean, it probably has upset.
Having this scene, the opening scene, where it just ties into the huge event that happens at the end of the comic book, you're like, oh yeah, this does feel like the same world.
I mean, it probably has upset a lot of fans. I'm sure that it's been very divisive. I know Tim hates it. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, Tim watched the first episode and his reaction online was not favourable. But I think what makes it work, I think how you do a new modern version of Watchmen is that, much like Watchmen did at the time, you have it tackle issues of the day, And part of what makes it feel like it's part of the same world.
This one is not shying away from those.
It's definitely not. But I think what makes it feel part of the same world, and the sad part of this is that it's because, well, some of the issues we had in the 80s are still relevant. Like that, no, not all. I mean, some of them are different. We're not joking about Nixon.
There's all these little tiny details too. That's like, oh yeah, if this really was the future in the Watchmen, that would make sense that they don't have like. They have pagers and not cell phones. Like a lot of people would be afraid of technology because of the interdimensional squid that happened, and they didn't want to play like too much with it. So, I think it's the little details in there that really makes it work.
Yeah, I agree.
Except for Tim.
I think the world building has been fantastic. I've loved all that mythology stuff, and really setting up what the world is like since Watchmen. It's been one of my favorite things about the show.
Well, that was the thing about, I mean, even the Watchmen comic was, this is our world. The only difference is that what if Superman actually existed and he was American, you know? And it was like, oh yeah, maybe we would have Vietnam as a state. Or, you know, people would not, you know, idolize vigilantes and superheroes, but we would go to other things like pirates instead because superheroes are boring because they exist now, or something like that. Like it's, you know, it's faithful to a lot of the themes in the comics.
Well, that was one of the things in the comic. That's why the pirate comics were big, is because like superheroes exist in this world, so they don't write a lot about them in the same way. Pirates and stuff like that are what the fiction's about. You know, and there's a reason why we have a lot of superhero stuff, but we don't necessarily write a whole lot about pirates because pirates did kind of exist, and you know they were famous for a time, but now superheroes are what we all want to come and save us from our problems because the world is screwed up.
Yeah, or just that they have something other than superheroes that they write about, that they're excited about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, no, the show's been very good.
Pirates had their chance here.
Pirates had their chance.
But they just kept focusing on Jack Sparrow.
Now, the way you said that, you're almost paraphrasing the Goldblum from Jurassic Park. You know, dinosaurs had their chance.
Pirates are extinct now. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, pirates
except
are
in
extinct.
Somalia.
Look at me. I'm the captain now. So, no, the show's been great. I will say this. This airs the same night every week as Mr. Robot right now, which is one of my favorite shows. And I will say, for as good as this was, Mr. Robot had an all-timer this week. So this comes up second for me this week. I haven't watched any of them,
so I'm sure fans are quite happy. Yeah, I'm happy for them.
I'm just saying, as good as this was, because this was a great episode, Mr. Robot.
I do think this is a great episode. I don't care much for the hat flashback that we saw like 15 minutes before. I thought that was kind of bizarre because the show like does a really good job of trusting the audience to figure out what's happening, but then they just like show these little clips like, remember the hat? They're mentioning the material, and then they show you the hat a second time.
Oh, sure,
or
yeah.
like they show you the girl again a second time later on. You're like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, there's a couple of little snippets like that. Yeah, you're right. No, I mean, they're not a big deal because they don't really bog things down because they are just a split second. But you're right, we don't need them. It's kind of spelling it out to us a little bit too much.
It was just a little bit like, yeah, we get it. Like the show is way more complicated than that, and we're following along as best we can, as much as I think the show wants us to. Why is this being spelled out to us? I don't know.
Especially since, like, you know, they did at least a funner job, maybe not smarter, but a funner job with the lettuce, reminding us about the lettuce. You know, like they had a little joke in there to make that work. It didn't have to flash back to it. You know, so
plus we got more panda,
and we got more panda, which makes it all worthwhile. So
that's all. That was my only like complaint. Like, what?
No, that's fair.
Why was it there?
That's fair.
Overall, pretty good. Pretty great. I really like it.
That was great. Yes, my sentence that I was trying to finish about 30 seconds ago, or a minute ago, was I just wanted to say, for as good as this was, Mr. Robot basically meant that it had no chance of winning the night. Not that it really matters who wins, but Mr. Robot had an episode where it completely recontextualized the entire show so that I really want to watch the whole thing again immediately. It was that kind of episode, so.
Sounds like people should listen to your review.
It was 92 minutes long. Me and Connor went deep on that episode. deep. So that is Watchmen, though. That is episode 5 of Watchmen, midpoint of the season. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that usual stuff. You can support us by rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. In fact, the Mr. Robot reviews are on the same podcast feed. I'll mention it if you're interested. Tara, where can people support us financially?
Ooh, you can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MadBuzzTV. And donating as little as $1 per month will get you bonus features, including wrestling tangents. And
that sounds like someone.
I haven't watched them, but I think Pete and Matthew start wrestling somehow.
Don't spoil them.
Only for $1.
I do love though that you mentioned that, because I get the impression you got a notification for it recently and went, oh, it's a wrestling conversation. I don't want this.
I don't care.
It's become a wheelie tradition on the comics podcast that me and Matt will just sit and talk about that week's wrestling for 20 minutes, and it goes up as a bonus thing on Patreon. And Cara just sits there miserable the whole time.
Did you like my jazzing up the the Patreon plug?
I laughed at that because the last time we recorded, I joked. You won't see us for a few weeks if you watch our Twilight Zone reviews, but I joked after the fact that she had she always says it in the exact same way, and what I loved about that is you try to make it different, but after the first 3 seconds, it just went back to the same thing it always is. So
yeah,
it was funny.
It was just a different. Yeah.
It was like, you can support us on Patreon. But then it was just normal from then on. It was the exact same way you always say it.
Hey, I never talk about wrestling.
That's true. But yeah, you get bonus episodes of various things at the $1 tier. $5 tier gets you early access to some stuff and some voting rights for some various podcasts and so on and so on. So go and have a look. You can get it on Twitter at mail_fudge for channel updates. So thank you. Yeah, I was worried it's going to be a shorter review, and we're actually like a good chunk over an hour now at this point. So thank you very much for sticking around and enjoying our rambles, and hopefully give us your own thoughts in the comments. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?